for some reason. Welcome, everybody. 9:06 on Friday, the 25th of April. Andy Ross, the vice chair, is going to call the meeting of the LDC, Troy LDC, to order. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of February 21, 2025, and March 28th of 2025.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I think the March ones are fine, because Tom and Jeff are also missing at that one.
Yeah.
But maybe not the February ones, right, because everybody was there for that one. I don't know how that works, just so you know. I didn't print them out.
Okay. Well, Tom was not there. But the three of us were. The three of us were, so we can all.
March you can do, yeah.
Right, so March and February we can all.
Okay.
Because we would have been in February too.
Let's do it.
Right.
So I'll make a motion.
Okay. Second. Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Okay.
Not in here?
Yes, it's hot in here.
I'm gonna send that.
Your office. Well,
Yeah.
exactly.
Oh, I keep mine in a freezer. In my conference room, I put like 68 degrees, because I don't want people sitting in there fall asleep. They want it cold, and then get out.
See?
No, that's exactly, no, you keep attention, you get in. I don't want any meeting over 45
Hey,
minutes.
people come to my office and they go, oh my God.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, let's wake up.
Yep, no meetings over 45 minutes. Anything that you can't get done in 30 minutes, you're done. Sorry. Executive Director's Report.
So, do we want to give, I mean, at least I know some of the other items we've kind of hashed out. I don't think there's really an update, but at least with geothermal, I mean, really the update is kind of.
Do you really just want to jump to the geothermal and the King Fuels thing, really?
Yeah, I mean,
that's probably the only thing we need to cover,
I mean, we can touch quick on the grants, the small grants for the LDC. Me and Danae have been talking about them, either, expending some of those last funds of people that are in the hopper. I'm not guaranteeing, but I'm also trying to work on, do we maybe put some more money into it from the city end, if there's some ARPA funds, another round, but that's just a brief update. I think that program went really well, and we had a lot of success with it, so I'd love to double down on anything that goes well. And then on geothermal, you want to kind of give a...
Yeah, just to remind everyone,
we're
up against a July 9th date, which is when National Grid needs to submit their filing to the PSC to review their proposed geothermal pilot project that Troy LDC and the city will be participating in. There's a number of things that we need to do between now and then.
We as in the city, right?
We as the city and the LDC. We need to wrap up the SECRA determination, and we're scheduled to have the full council consider the SECRA next week, Thursday, May 1st. We expect that they will do a negative declaration, and so that would satisfy that milestone. We're in discussions with National Grid in terms of the thermal resource agreement, which the thermal resource agreement will ultimately be, what are the costs that are going into constructing and operating the bore field and the pump station, and how we can work out with National Grid on basically a price, as to what that's going to be.
No, that would be the city, not the LDC, right?
It is, the thermal resource agreement is going to be with the LDC.
I thought it was going to be with the LDC.
Okay, because I know it went back and forth, and it's
Right.
back on our, okay, so we're going to have to be managing that going forward?
Yes.
Okay, managing the
implementation,
the management,
correct.
Okay. How about there was a carve-out discussed of who's going to handle the billing. That's not going to be LDC, right? That's going to go back under Grid?
Billing to the users?
The users,
Yeah,
right.
that would be National
Good,
Grid.
because I was like, I don't want to touch that.
Right.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
it'll be a bifurcation between, city and LDC with relation to the bore field and the pump
Okay.
station, and then it goes over to the National Grid Energy Distribution, Energy Center, and then from there, it's all them,
Mhm.
Okay.
you know.
Okay, plus 3 leases. So
Okay.
a lease between the city and the LDC for the bore field, a lease for the staircase components, another lease for the interconnect, and then the thermal resources, a separate agreement.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
And we have to iron out too, you know, like I referred to earlier on, what happens at 2 a.m. if something goes wrong, you know, what's the O&M part responsibility after that?
The PSC would require that obligation rest with National Grid as the utility. I mean, they're the provider. So in terms of the question of like, if a customer has a problem at 2 a.m. with heating and cooling, that would still be a responsibility of the
Yeah,
utility.
I'm more referring to the part that will be
Hours.
Oh, ours,
Yeah.
we have
bore
those.
field
Yeah.
or that, you know.
So we'll have to incorporate O&M provisions, whether it's the thermal resource agreement or a standalone O&M.
It'll be, we have built those costs into our preliminary cost estimates that we've presented to National Grid,
Mhm.
which will include insurance costs.
So what I'm concerned with is the LDC is a transitional board, and, you know, I've been on it, you asked me how long, I've been on it for 20-some odd years, I think, and there's been a lot of board members. I just want to make sure that we're careful what we put onto this board, because members come and go, and there's different skill levels.
Got it.
Mhm.
Nice way of saying it,
Yeah.
so.
They're not, there's a chance they might not be as good as this existing board, is what you're saying. Andy,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Exactly, no, it's, no, there's different skill levels.
No, I
And,
hear
you know, I mean, you know, I'm in property management, I have stuff that I bring on, but I'm not gonna be here long.
Yeah.
You know, and, yeah, we've had
Yeah.
other people that.
Well, and this is why too, especially even with my involvement, the goal there was to try to create that much more synergy between the city and the LDC,
Yeah.
so that decisions can kind of flow a little better, you know what I mean? So the actual energy center, so let's go with the 2 a.m., something breaks down in there. That
That's
would,
their
that's
responsibility.
their, so that's really the cutoff, the
Right.
feed into the energy center's the cutoff,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
And that energy center is actually, still needs to get planning and zoning approvals.
Mhm. But there's no need for those in advance of the July 9th filing
Yeah.
deadline.
I don't think so.
What is the
We talked
LDC?
about some, that
Yeah.
will accept draft agreements, right? Or, well, the planning's different, but the other
Well, the leases, I think they'll accept draft
draft,
leases.
yeah. No.
Yeah, what does the LDC need to have to support the July 9th date? Because that's coming up fast. We got,
We're gonna need to have,
May,
the thermal resource agreement's gonna need to be worked out.
okay,
And then there's some other sub-agreements that are part of that.
Yeah, and that's where I was going with the O&M. I mean, that would be kind of a whether it's a sub-agreement, part of the thermal resource,
Right.
or it's incorporated by reference and it's a
Yeah.
standalone document.
And that's something that is, on my radar right now to try to have further conversations with, because I think we really need to talk about that and focus on who that's going to be. And, you know, I know Siemens has had a part in this too. That's something they're geared up for, but.
They've been under our contract with NYSERDA to do a lot of the engineering and financial work.
Mhm.
They are basically our consultant to do the financial work, which has enabled us to put some numbers on paper to provide to national.
Yeah.
okay, so,
They can offer that servicing element after the fact too.
Well, I think what you're referring to is that when it gets down, let's say there's a go decision,
Mm-hmm.
and we actually are gonna do this project, they could
When we do this
potentially
project,
bid,
yeah.
when we
Yeah,
do this
yeah.
project, they could potentially bid as a, design build contract.
Mm-hmm.
so I've got experience with Siemens and district cooling in the Middle East, specifically Dubai and Sharjah and over there, and a lot of the, they protect themselves, that's all I'm gonna say. Everything is they're very up in front, help, but when it gets pushed to shove, you're at the end of the,
Mhm. This
you're
is
at the end
outside
of the plank.
scope.
Yeah, be careful.
Right.
That's all I'm gonna
Yeah.
say. And again, and, you know, if there's
Well,
an
we're-
agreement that we have to be in place by the July 9th just make sure that we're,
Yeah, but what we're getting by July 9th is really just getting National Grid in a position where they can present to the PAC.
got it, okay,
We're still a long ways away from
got it,
procuring a contractor.
Right.
okay. All right, so I just, yeah, so I'm just curious, okay, we got 2 months to basically have the LDC get something together, and so you feel comfortable that we can put a lot,
There's
Cover
gonna
our
be,
side,
there's
okay.
been side meetings going on
Okay.
about that too,
All right.
working towards it with National Grid and, you
Okay.
know, the 15 people phone call thing, you know,
yeah,
so.
I get it, yeah.
They bring an army.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, they do, so. Okay, so community grants, you just talked about them. Are we all done with the geothermal?
Yep.
Okay. King Fuels?
Unless there's something today to...
No, I was just gonna say, Andy, if it would be helpful, I don't know, maybe somebody could come in to, I know we're kind of the people that meet with them, but maybe do a presentation for Andy, or?
No, I'm familiar, I've done it in the Middle East,
Okay.
so I understand district
Yeah.
cooling was, they're doing it on massive,
Yeah, no, I just didn't. know if it
massive
would be
scale
helpful.
over there.
Yeah, okay, or you can join one of our Zoom sessions.
Yeah.
So,
50,
I just know my experience over there, so.
And we, you know, the city's under EPC with them, as an energy performance contract with
Okay.
them, we do some work with them.
Okay.
And so, I'm
Okay.
familiar with what you're talking about.
Okay, that's, yes. Forewarned, they said, right?
Yeah.
Yes, and like I said, they're really 1990 up front, and then when you get down to the brass tacks, it's, hey, some paragraphs, see this wording right here, we interpret it that this is your responsibility.
Yeah.
So, anyway, King Fuels, so we found a barrel, last meeting we had,
Andrew found a barrel.
okay, it was up against it was down along the water line, right?
Let's see, where did he say? Well, I'm not sure
That's what it
exactly,
was.
but it was on the site.
Yep.
And he went out and got some quotes. So he got a quote from Crystal Clean of about $39.99, Clean Harbors of about $4,095, and the Miller Environmental Group of $5,864.
Okay.
His recommendation is to go with Clean Harbors. He felt that was the best.
Is that the middle one?
Yeah.
That's the middle one.
Yep.
That's the middle one.
They've been around forever.
And,
Okay.
but he did say that, he got this bid, on April 10th. And he did say they're only good for like 10 days. But I think what we need to do is just authorize probably up to 5,000 so that
Okay.
he can implement this.
I know that he said they found a barrel that had stuff in it. Was there anything around the barrel that had to be removed? I can't remember what he said last.
Was it leaked, there was no evidence of
No.
leaking from the barrel?
No evidence of leaking, I think
Okay.
it just needs to
It's
get
just-
someone to
just
get
get
in
the
there and
barrel.
characterize
And
what.
well, just get rid of it, right? That's not gonna be that's the
Well, this is
removal and
not getting
disposal,
rid of
right?
it. No, this
That's
is,
just the
this is gonna be just,
analysis?
yeah.
That doesn't make sense. I mean, I've
Seems
had,
high for just a
Exactly.
third-party
That's what I
lab.
thought.
'Cause I don't think they do it in-house. I think they
Yeah.
would take the samples and send them off to a third-party E-lab.
right. I think that would be the removal, because I mean, I've had tanks
All right.
removed from our site, it's about,
That would be all of it.
that should be all of it,
Right,
not
yeah.
just the analysis.
Yeah.
is the way I'm
Transport
saying.
and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
off-site
Right,
disposal.
so how would we do,
Let's see, although it appears the contents of the drum are petroleum-based, disposal cannot occur until there is certainty of what the drum holds. As such, sampling with full protection must first occur. This drum is compromised, should a capsule occur, either of these would be incurred. The following quotes received for the initial step of waste analysis only.
holy smokes,
Yeah, it's high.
wrong business.
Wow.
I'm gonna throw a match out, see if it burns. Hey, it's petroleum, sorry.
So, yeah, this is just that, and
So
then,
they don't even contemplate what the removal would
No,
be? Then?
no,
Because
that's-
well, they gotta know what they're dealing with first.
When I get that, but yeah, if that's what
Huh.
the price is to figure out what they're dealing with, then what's the, you know?
Do we ask to change the scope to say removal of this as well? I
I mean, the other concern is if you get somebody else to do the disposal, sometimes they're nervous.
Right.
There's another company who did the
Yeah,
exactly.
characterize.
So two things, you'd want, I mean, I feel like the only reason, when you do the analysis to obviously know what you're dealing with, so why would we then, you know, have one?
I agree. I think it should be combined.
Because the only reason to do the analysis is to determine whether it has to be disposed of as hazardous waste.
Correct.
As opposed to
Correct.
solid waste.
Correct.
Exactly.
Right, so if it's solid, it can go to a MSW landfill. If it's hazardous, it's probably gonna go out of state.
Yeah,
Okay.
so maybe we
I think we,
Look how
maybe we
we-
look at how we ask for that bid.
Well,
So can we
before
table
we,
it?
yeah,
No.
let's have a little more discussion about
Yeah.
that. Because I know Andrew was he felt pretty strongly that we needed to act quickly on this. And he actually wanted sort of an executive decision to get this done before this meeting, like 2 weeks ago.
Is it in the way of construction? What's the urgency?
I think just so that it doesn't get breached in any way, you know, the longer we wait, the more opportunity there is for something.
For like
to go wrong.
corrosion or,
Well, then, can it be as simple as that Andrew reaches back out to these three
Right.
contractors and says, okay, well, I mean, can you also bid on what you're, I mean, kind of to Tony's point, where if it's gonna be one or the other, so
Correct.
I understand even if they give in an either or price.
As long as we can authorize some dollar amount that would enable him to go back out, okay, give us a bid that's both characterization and disposal, and that he doesn't have to wait for us to get back together next month.
Well, and I should, and I don't, let me ask this, does the board, so, say this ends up costing $20,000, I'm just throwing out, so that's gonna require us to authorize spending that, so are you suggesting that we take an action to at least give like a threshold of an amount to allow them to act within, which is a little tough not knowing the.
Right, if we did 10, I mean, 10,000 would be I mean, how much is it to get rid of one barrel?
Yeah.
What's wrong?
I mean, this came up at last meeting, and
Oh, I know.
I thought 5,000 was a lot, just
I
the
thought so, too.
characterization, you
Yeah.
know?
I didn't see the number I don't think he had the number last time, did he?
But that's what it is. So, it really comes down to, if we don't have a good sense of what that disposal cost would be, which, again, if I'm gonna channel Andrew, it's gonna be, we won't know until they do this characterization.
Correct.
or they could assume it's hazardous. And
Right,
then just bid on
exactly,
that.
bid on the hazardous if it's not.
Because if
Right.
it's flammable or toxic in any way, it's hazardous.
Right,
But how does that help us rate this moment,
Mhm.
put a dollar amount down?
Right.
Well, that's what
That's not what they bid on.
right.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I guess where I'm with you, I wanted to move forward, you know, in a quick manner, but I
don't think we're at the point to.
just don't, we kinda don't know what we're,
Right. I think we need to
what are
have,
we agreeing to move forward
right, I
on,
think
you
we
know?
need to have a scope that says, hey, it's either gonna be hazardous or non, here's the analysis and the analysis and removal
Yeah.
of both
Mhm.
option A, option B. That's what I'd like to go back to Andrew on. I mean, it's been there, he says he found it's been there for a long time. 1 month isn't gonna hurt us unless it's in a construction way, unless it's
Yeah.
actively
Or
in
if
an
there's
area.
evidence of
Right,
discharge.
right,
And then
right.
that would be an emergency.
Right,
Right.
correct, there's no evidence of discharge.
Did National Grid say it was in their way? Is that how it came up?
I don't recall, but I did get a sense of urgency from them, but that's the first time I got a sense of urgency.
Well, also, and I'm just asking this so if he does, let's say he goes back and next week gets more info and we have a more solid number, I guess where I'm looking for clarity is, is it necessarily a board decision, or is it a decision I can say, okay, well, the executive director, can say move forward? I'm trying to think what that dollar amount threshold is.
I think we do 10 now, easy, we
Yeah.
double it. I mean,
Yeah.
first of all, do we have the cash? I don't know.
Yeah,
And I got 4 minutes, guys, I'm sorry.
no, it's okay.
Well,
I say let's just for this.
Let's table
Let's
it.
have him go back to it. If we can make a decision, you know, if I think we're hearing consensus of where we're kind of comfortable
Right.
with, if I can make the decision without convening the board, then we can move forward, and
And-
otherwise, we
Yeah, I would
deal
think
with it
you
the
can.
next meeting,
I
yeah.
think you
We
can.
can, if it's considered like an emergency situation.
Absolutely.
You can make a decision,
Okay.
and then the
Yeah.
board can,
Well, I'll keep
Just
it,
bring it
I'll
back
keep-
to the board, right?
Yeah, and
Okay.
I'll keep it top of my radar, so we
Okay.
can get it going, okay?
Okay.
And you have the
financials?
money, right?
Do we have,
Yeah, no,
we-
I know we have the money.
we have it, okay. We do financials?
yeah, so here,
Oh.
what the next item is about is,
On what?
we
Sorry.
talked, on the cash flow analysis.
Okay.
We talked about whether or not there's any opportunity to take some of the money that's in our cash account and get a better return on it, higher
Mhm.
yield savings.
Yeah.
So to do this, Matt, thank you very much, Matt, pulled together, balances of our cash account over the past 39 months. And, so we've put together a quick report, that just kind of shows,
Thank you.
we'll try to get this done in 4 minutes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
And so what we looked at is just, you know, the charts really kind of can tell the story. The first one just kind of shows what the beginning and ending balances were over the course of that 39-month period. So you can just,
Yeah,
it's really this,
I can't
the
tell which is what.
distinction,
So
the
this is-
distinction's not that important.
Right,
What's
okay.
important is kind of, you know, is it been all over the place?
Right.
Or, and what direction is it going in?
Right.
And it's been, you know, fairly stable, although the account balance has increased on average over the course of the past few years. And in fact, if you go to the last page
Mhm.
and you look up to the right-hand corner, you'll see that the average balance was $280,000 in 2022. That went up to $490,000 for 2025.
So who is our current bank? M&T. We do a thing that's called a sweep every night with our accounts, where they basically sweep it. At the end of the day, they sweep money out of our accounts into, and then they bring it back in the morning. And that saves us interest, but also pays us, on the money. So is that available with M&T?
I don't know.
Because then the money's due, I mean, the money's right back in your account Monday. So if you sweep on Friday, it's back in the accounts on Monday, but you're earning interest, over the weekend, and you're earning interest at night.
I think what we want to look at is the interest rate on what that is.
Okay.
We are banking on during 5%
Yeah,
here.
it's not, yeah, no, that's not, that's,
So what we're trying to get to here is like, is there an opportunity to take some chunk of that cash account and put it in higher yield savings, without putting us in any kind of like cash flow shortfall situation? And from this analysis, it suggests there is a little bit of an opportunity here, but probably with only 800 and 200,000 max. And so I don't think we need to make any decisions here today, but this is just something to, you know, you've got the data, we've got the analysis, we've got, you know, I think we can conclude that there's some opportunity to move money into higher yield savings.
have you talked to other banks?
That would be the next step if that was something that the board felt.
Okay, I just don't know why we're at M&T, so. My suggestion would be to ask M&T if they will do a sweep, okay? That way you're not tying your money up. If you need it, right away you can get it. You don't have to basically say, I parked this 100,000 or whatever it is, I can't touch it for whatever. See if they'll do a sweep, what's involved in it, if there's any fees. I know there's the banks right now are consolidating, there's a lot of movement. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say consolidated. There's a lot of movement in the commercial lending, situation right now, and they're very active trying to beat their chests and get new clients on board. So they're putting out some pretty nice numbers. What I thought we just refinanced all four of my companies. So just let you know.
That's the objective, is to get from
Just let you know.
0.65%
Which
to
is
something
nothing.
more like 4 or 5.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's doable, so, and we can talk, if you want, we had 4 guys, like, banging on our doors, like, really wanting our business, so. I don't know politically if we need to stay in the city of Troy with them, you know, I don't,
The city does its banking with Pioneer, and,
Right.
you know,
right, they used to be in Troy,
yeah.
so,
No, this is
Right.
good.
That's really good, thanks, Randy, yeah,
Thanks, Matt.
thanks, Matt, it's good. Do I need to be around for anything? We need
I
other
don't think we have
financials,
any other action to take.
okay, cash flow analysis, which is there,
I
financials.
think you just running through the
Do we need to run the
financials.
financials and we have to approve them, right? So do you have a vote on those?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Go.
okay, what's that?
I said, go, Matt, go.
Yeah,
All right, first report, statement of financial position. As of March 31st, we had total assets of $3,641,439, with $550,371 of that in cash. We had total liabilities of $1,161,037, which left us with a fund balance of $2,480,402. There's no significant changes to statement of financial position. Lastly, we have a statement of activity. For the month of March, we ran a surplus of $293.58. Our most significant source of revenue was the National Grid license fee, and our largest expenses were in our professional services.
any questions on the financials?
Nope, pretty standard.
Okay, we have a motion,
Make a motion.
any seconds?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so moved. Make a motion to close the LDC meeting
Motion.
at 9:34 a.m. All in favor? Aye, thank you
Aye.
very much, everybody, appreciate
Enjoy
it.
the concert.
Thank you, nothing like 7 and 8-year-olds.
Once you,
Quite literally, right?
once you send me those pictures, I'll look into that.